Okay, all right, before it is 9 a.m., I'm going to call this meeting to order. First order of business is the approval of the minutes.
So move.
All right, consent items. Our city attorney really wants a superstar sticker this morning and a cookie. So we're going to go ahead and pull item 3F from the consent item so that we can discuss it. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a ordinance that is going to be sponsored by both you, Madam Chair, and Councilmember Hancock. This is a direct result of Councilmember Hancock's diligent efforts with the mayor this last legislative session to change our state law. So we are allowed to now enforce registration violations in our municipal court. Now that'll be, I think it's kind of near the beginning of August when it actually goes into effect, but I see Megan smiling over there, but I said, Megan, we got to get this in the city code. So we got it. We got it going. And so this, what this ordinance does, and I know you guys will not oppose it, but I just wanted to talk about kind of full circle that the bill got signed. We were going to have a signing ceremony, but then with everything happened up in Boulder, the governor just signed it. So it is now law. So congratulations, Councilmember Hancock. And we're looking forward to that. So that's that item. Any questions?
No, just a couple comments. On the way over here this morning, there were several without license plates. And if someone would just give me a light to put on the top of my car. We missed me up in 2 seconds.
But no.
I do qualify to be in the reserve unit, though. I have the qualifications to be in the reserve unit if someone would just let me have a light. I don't even need a gun, just a whistle.
I'll whistle.
Yeah.
I started cleaning the other day, so she's good.
So I know since that was technically pulled, this vote would be, oh, Mayor, we just talked about our registration ordinance that's going to go with the city code. So I was giving accolades to you and Councilmember Hancock for your work on that. So.
Oh, Councilmember Hancock did the heavy lifting.
She did.
All right, so I approve to move this forward.
Seconded.
All right, awesome. We will go into general
We
business.
just need the rest of the consent agenda. Vote on that. 3A, the 3G, minus 3F.
So I approve. Second, the rest. Good, okay. Item 4A, cabaret license modifications, something I'm sponsoring. But Trevor, it is so good to see you in this room right now. So go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Well, what's more fun than talking about this category?
You know, this is my life right here.
You know, I'm trying not to be the city's chief buzzkill, but Trevor Vaughn, manager of the licensing. Yeah, we want people to have fun, but be safe. And I think that's what we'll talk about here. Go ahead. So the cabaret license, it is a license that he has that's actually an add-on for places that have dance floors, late night entertainment. And this is actually fairly common with a lot of cities throughout the country, including Denver. They have cabaret license, but the requirements vary from city to city. It's very city specific as to, you know, what our temperature is and policy. So the modification here that we talked about is we have this cabaret license code. Right now, it does not permit places to have standing room only. They need to have enough seating for everybody in the business. And that's kind of a safety precaution, helps keep the place calmer. What we've talked about is, however, though, that's inhibitive to venues that are very commonly have standing room only areas and those areas. So it's an issue with particularly one venue here in Aurora in particular, the Stampede. And so we talked about how can we do this safely, looking at some of the other models around the country, and proposed creation of an open floor cabaret class for that standing room only with some limitations around it to ensure that we have a safe environment. We don't have crowd crushes and there's proper life safety, crowd control, and we don't have any of the big news stories that you see with a lot of bad things happening at nightclubs that don't have those precautions in place. While we were looking at this, we discussed addressing another area that we've seen a lot of public safety concerns. It's not just in Aurora, but I've heard about it throughout the state, throughout the country, is the private event center model, and then bringing that in. So there's really two things that we're talking about here today: the creation of the open floor class, and then dealing with the private event centers that don't have a liquor license. So they don't have to obtain this license. They don't have to obtain a liquor license because the events are private. There's alcohol consumption there at these private events. but they are having very similar impacts to bars with less oversight. So go ahead. Ness. So open floor class cabaret license. This would be for businesses that have a capacity of greater than 250. That's in accordance with the fire code that talks about when you start to have to worry about crowd control. We just referenced that the fire department will approve a crowd control plan that allows some flexibility with the business to discuss what are the best ways to address that and keep it safe. And that's going to be in accordance with the national fire code. So there's some best practices there. Along with that, we want to control some of the alcohol service issues that we've seen. No glass bottles. We don't want these. We've had issues with those becoming projectiles. Addressing some of the issues with bottle service and bottle buckets. I have seen this in places that have attempted to have standing room only. They'll still be serving things in, bottle buckets, which are multiple bottles in a bucket, and that ends up just getting sat on the floor and people are tripping over it. And plus people are over consuming and bad things happening. So trying to make sure we have a good, calm environment. And then addressing bottle service. That's where you have that full, bottle of liquor on the table. And we talked about kind of best ways to address this without being anti-competitive, because we know places in Denver have that. But limiting those practices, keeping it to 750 milliliters, making sure people don't drink out the bottle. Good evaluation of the service. Yeah, that happens. We've seen it. Yeah.
Is this a personal story? No mayor. So just to be clear on the third item, so if they have a place to sit, they can do a bucket service? Okay.
But with these limitations, okay? No bottle service unless you don't have a place to sit.
Okay.
And it's funny, you have to specify that, but I think we do. 3 or more patrons, and then just having that adequate staff. And then now adding an additional requirement for all cabarets to have 14 days video surveillance, which I think most of our businesses do, but it's been a problem with the private event centers. So the second piece of this is inclusion of these event centers and going into reasons why. These private event centers, they have no liquor license. These are the ones we're focused on. The ones that have a liquor license already kind of have that oversight. We have the liquor license requirements that they don't have negative impacts to the community, proper control of service. And so what we're seeing is from these event centers, we're seeing, same impacts for our nightclubs. Overconsumption. Basically what happens is in some of these, there's not proper oversight where, you have the private event and Uncle Joe brings in his full bar, tons of bottle of liquor. They drink way too much and problems happen. We're having noise impacts in the neighborhood and violence. So 2024, we had 4 shootings that I would attribute to event centers. And so trying to address potential underground nightclubs. We have a couple examples where that's basically what had happened. And then Colorado Springs nightclub was one of these, exactly one of the situations. But this was one of the shootings we had up here off of Tower Road. Exact thing happened that I'm talking about, where the event center basically gave the keys to somebody who they allowed to take a cut of the money, who didn't oversee what events were going in there. Individuals figured that out. Not good individuals started running these kind of nightclubs events. It's very far up north, very hard to know that this stuff was going on there until something bad happened. And this place was not properly set up for it. It did have a general business license, but they weren't properly monitoring the events that were going in there. Very hard to find out who to hold accountable because, well, they say, well, I just rented it out to this guy. It's pretty much fly by night, disappears because they don't have any accountability with the license. And there's, unclear accountability for the people running the event center. Go ahead and go to the next one. Similarly, this facility here up off of North Peoria had a shooting there. What happened? Same thing. Event. They said it was a birthday party. They were actually running a concert event. That's not the same event. I couldn't find a flyer for this specific event, but yeah, they ran past 2 a.m. We're just continuing to operate. No accountability there. Had told the event center operator it was Birthday party, event center did not have any video cameras. They weren't there on site overseeing what was going on. So trying to add some more accountability there. So go ahead and go to the next one. This one was from a few years ago, but it was a pretty big incident, so I thought I'd mention it. The event center was off Mississippi in Peoria. It was the exact event. If you see, it was set to run from 12 to 5 a.m. It was really.
It was actually a church. It wasn't
Yes.
even an event center.
It was a church. The church was next door, and the church owned or was leasing out this other unit and was operating an event center out of there. And they had a few events before this, but and I think, the church just basically was trying to find a way to generate income and was just kind of renting it out to whoever. This entity was run by somebody with a lengthy criminal history who had set up this entity a couple weeks prior to the event. They just rented it out to them. Kind of recklessly ran, ended up with a shooting at 4 a.m. 5 people shot and around the fire. So kind of the issues that we want to get on top of and say, you're going to need a license to run that center. Here are the things you're going to need to do to run an event center. We also have noise complaint here and those issues. So I'll go ahead and go to the next one. Of course, you have the Colorado Springs one. I did find some advertising, looks like pretty much the same thing, where you had, they had what was initially a wedding venue and just kind of started renting it out. So trying to address that. There's a little bit of history on the number of calls, and I highlight this because I think this is an issue that I've heard about from other jurisdictions. We could be setting kind of a model where we kind of decouple the requirement of location control from the liquor service, so that, you still got to control the location, even if you're not the one serving liquor, and then also address the responsibility of the liquor service. Go ahead. So looking at it, it looks like we probably got about 10 that would need to get this license. A few of these have had events that we've discovered should have had a liquor license, but didn't. And just trying to get on top of it. We have some of them are very well ran and are doing the right things. I think my argument for those ones would be that with this, it may actually help your business because it's going to knock out some of that competition. We had, I was talking with the event center owner yesterday, and she requires that she does very good things. It requires that they use a trained bartender. But if you're something that's like, well, I don't want that extra expense or I have to deal with that. Hey, there's this other event center I can go to that doesn't require that. And this would kind of level that playing field would be my argument on that. But it does create additional fees and some red tape for these event centers. So, and so it's just where alcohol consumption is permitted and dancing is permitted, just like the other categories. So basically,
What's the distinction with the dancing?
more of a party environment.
It's not seating, it's not sit down
Trevor
food.
went undercover when I decided I wanted to sponsor this. Trevor went undercover. Actually, he even went out of state. Where did you go, Trevor?
Scottsdale.
He went to Scottsdale.
Well, that's all right.
And while there, he decided to go undercover in their
course he did.
dancing area. And he said he sat at the bar and I don't know what Trevor did all to prepare for this. But I said, Trevor, I would like to work on this. And he took it to a whole new level. So,
That's dedication.
Yeah. I just have flashbacks to case law from the 50s and 60s about dancing and prohibitions and.
That's probably where this come from. But
Yes.
I think here's the thing. I think ours is kind of a good balance. Denver requires it anytime there's entertainment. With Aurora, what I've kind of seen is that it is when you add the dance where that seems to take it on a level. And that's where you start to have more of the violence and
What's it say, dance area, or does it say? just
dancing is permitted, is basically what it says. When dancing.
So we already have a cabaret license.
Right.
This is now an open floor cabaret license. That's the point of this. It's a modification
That's ours.
so now we're gonna capture the event centers
Two piece, creation of open
Yeah.
floor and
Yeah.
then capturing event centers, two
Yes.
different things. Yeah.
because all of these event centers are having these events, which is where we're having a ton of shootings. But bars, we're held to so many standards. We have to have a food license, we have to have a liquor license, we have to, we have stings run on us, all kinds of stuff. And these event centers are just turning over the keys to somebody, and then these shootouts are happening, people are hammered, there's nobody to cut people off, there's no one to stop over serving, there's no one to stop them from leaving the establishment. And so when Trevor and I kind of started down this road, I'm like, this is absolutely unacceptable that bars have to have all of these licenses and have to police our establishments, and these event centers are just having whatever wild parties they're having.
So, well, one, thank you for both of you taking this forward. First of all, I was approached several years ago by a legitimate event person who brought this issue up about the fairness of the problems. And given my social life, I had no idea what it was like.
You and Trevor need
This guy
to
blew it
Go
off.
undercover together.
I just blew it off.
together.
I
Yeah.
just blew it off. But one of the worst, what a terrible shooting we had. I can't remember, was it 3 years? It was in 2021. I can't remember when it was. At Peoria and Mississippi.
Yeah.
That was the one I brought up.
Yeah.
That whole parking lot was littered with shell casings.
Yes.
Because the fight started there and then spilled off into the parking lot.
And there's no one to hold accountable.
And so it was, I
Because
mean,
they
it's,
have no licenses.
this, you know, is very important. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead and go to the next one. So what it would require the private event centers to do in compliance with this is, I mentioned hire a liquor license caterer. This was kind of partially set up in liquor code last year. It was done poorly. They're going to need to run a new bill to get that funded for that license. So I did have a conversation with the caterers. And I think, you know, what this is helpful for that industry in particular is it decouples, like I said, decoupling the place control from the liquor service. So it kind of gives an opportunity for them to come in, because I'll tell you, other local governments have a hard time conceptualizing how caterers will work, where they don't give 30 days or 60 days to prove that liquor license will be done at the state level, but it'll have somebody responsible for responsible liquor service. And then that event center is responsible for the overall, you know, control of that facility, the external impact, something the caterer won't be necessarily part of initially, because they're going to come in and be hired probably a few days before the events. So that's where I was talking about this. This is also kind of a model for the other jurisdictions that I think are struggling with what that looks like when they actually create that license, because Colorado for so long has coupled liquor service with the location control. So requiring them not to have those deleterious impacts to the neighborhood, being of good moral character. So we know that they're not going to, you know, try to be operating an underground nightclub, and just by avoiding getting a liquor license. We have seen this happen. I'm just going to open up my place and, you know, it's an event center but they're, you know, they've got felonies and it's not good. So, and then monitoring the events, for compliance with the liquor code. So that'll be, I think those requirements are added. So go ahead and go to the next one. I think that was it.
Yeah, so Trevor, thank you so much for working with me on this and all the meetings that we had, and, you know, bringing in the CMP to include them, because they are obviously our largest venue in the city. I'm really thankful for this, finding out, because to have a liquor license, there's certain things you can't have on your record to be able to hold a liquor license. So I think that will eliminate a lot of bad event center owners, because they won't be able to they won't qualify for a liquor license. I also want to highlight that so we're still gonna have a cabaret license. This new license is called an open floor cabaret license. So anybody with a capacity of 250 more, I like the requirement that we came up with, that it is mandatory that they keep video footage for at least 14 days, because so many of these incidents happen and they say, oh, I don't know, my cameras weren't working. I really hope my colleagues will support this. I think that it is something that is very, very needed. I know where I'm at, one of my locations on Iliff and Chambers, there's an event center there. And they made the list, I think, for having a shooting, and I think someone died there.
Not them. I didn't have a shooting there. But they do not hold a liquor license, so they'd be qualified.
Yeah.
At least that I don't recall a shooting there. It wasn't within the line.
Okay. Okay, well, I do know that several people come out of there drunk, and then I have been questioned
Yeah.
whether or not they left my establishment, and I said, they're literally right there, they're coming out of that building, so, whatever. I really appreciate all your hard work and working with me on this, and I hope my colleagues will support moving this forward. Does anybody have any questions?
Go ahead, Mayor, yeah.
Is there a legal definition of good moral character? I'm afraid it's a threshold that the majority of council may not be, but,
Do you wanna know how many,
Wow.
do you wanna know how many liquor licenses I have held?
There,
Do you know how many-
what I will tell you, Mayor, is that is a phrase that is used often.
okay,
And
so it is term of art.
It is a term of art. So basically there, and it goes as Trevor explained, felony convictions, those sort of things that there are some parameters that are outlined.
Character.
Oh,
Like-
I'm surprised.
Like multiple times over.
We know Chair Jurinsky has good moral
So
character.
it's a-
He has liquor license.
Multiple, Trevor
So it's a
proves
pretty-
me every year. Trevor's proves me every year.
Explain.
Every year.
Explain.
So
Every
it's
year.
basically
Pretty much
felony.
have to be breathing.
Pretty much, it's felony convictions, it's prior history, if you had issues, that sort of thing.
Like if you have a drinking problem
Uh-huh.
yourself, you can't get a liquor license.
Oh, really?
So Chair,
Yeah,
question.
if you have
Sure,
any
okay.
liquor related violation, if you have any felonies, like there's a whole standard. Mayor, I'm not sure you would qualify for a liquor license.
Wow.
Meanwhile, I have multiple, so.
It's gonna be on the Denver Post tomorrow.
I'm waiting. Let's not lose this. Can I ask one question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go right, yeah.
Trevor, is if they don't comply, it's just gonna be under the general penalty in the code?
Correct.
Okay, so you'll go to the municipal court?
Yep. If you
Okay.
don't have the license, yep, would be a general penalty.
That was part of my question. What are penalties for people operating these establishments, to your point, event centers, and they don't comply with the mandate?
Yeah.
So they lose their license
And up to
then
360
then we can start shutting them down.
And if they don't have a license, then we can revoke the general business license, but, generally, you're probably just gonna go right to court on that.
Are we currently requiring that these event centers, since they are serving liquor, be required that they have their own security?
No, we're not requiring anything. That's
So that's
why
not at all.
this is so, we're not requiring anything. People can open an event center, the mayor. can
So,
open
so
an
we-
event
I wanna
center.
Is that something-
actually, I wanna qualify that statement a little bit. And I hesitate a little bit.
Can't get a liquor license. Event center.
The reason I would hesitate a little bit, for requiring security is, oftentimes that situationally dependent.
Yeah,
As to
I
what the
agree.
event
No,
is.
that's why we didn't add this in here.
You kind of get there, the reason is you gotta control your impacts
Right.
and not be negative, so you get there anyway.
Should be.
So, but it puts the onus on them to kind of work it out on themselves as the business owner to police themselves. That's what we're
No,
talking.
they will hold this liquor license in their name.
Oh, yeah.
And they will be responsible for the actions inside, that business. And I think that's how, after that shooting that I believe left 2 dead at the cigar flavor of Havana or whatever, I think that the police were able to, you
Yep.
guys were able to get, that's catty corner from JJ's. It is like, I'm telling you, what I deal with in this city, Mayor, you get out more.
Yeah.
Yeah, dead bodies all over the place.
Whoa, okay.
Oh,
Denver
God.
Post.
They're not dying in the streets all over the place. Yeah.
Madam Chair, is there, just a question, is there insurance requirements?
Yeah, but no, there would be, because if they're required to serve a liquor license now, their insurance carriers, they will have to report that to their insurance carriers. And they will have to, include that, they will have to include liquor
But is there
liability
insurance
in there.
Is it required?
It's not, it's interesting, it's not a requirement of liquor code for the.
It's not a requirement in the liquor code, but for their business, they will now have to carry liquor liability insurance to hold a liquor license.
I don't think it's-
It's not actually a requirement. It could be,
If you have a liquor license, you have to have liquor liability insurance.
Is that in the code?
it is not,
It's a law.
It's a.
I
It's
don't think it is. I don't,
It is.
I think it's the best practice. It's not required. And so
I would not be able to call my insurance company and
Well,
say, I want to drop my liquor liability insurance.
they would drop you they would drop your general,
They would cancel me.
correct, but that's not required for you to have it by law. I mean, you do it because it's the smart, best thing to do.
You can't own a business without having
You
insurance.
can.
Sure.
Well, that'll be the next one. Trevor.
That's why I bring it up, because
That's the next one.
that's why I bring it up,
Add it on
because
cabaret.
You can add it,
I think we should.
add it.
I think we should have insurance requirements, because that protects
That's
people.
ridiculous.
I know,
I like it a lot because it does
Trevor,
kind of have that
we
barrier.
need to add that. See, we didn't flush this
Okay.
out. Now.
That's why we
here
have
are, though.
discussions.
That's why
That's why we're here.
Trevor, we need to add that. So not only do they have to have a liquor license, they have to have liquor liability.
Okay.
You know,
I read through, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss it, but that's why it's, again, it just helps.
It's such best practice, for people, good business owners are like, yeah, I have insurance, but we do, I bet you we have businesses out there that don't have insurance.
I'm sure we do.
insane.
Well, that puts the public at risk.
Well, that's insane. Okay, well, thank you very much. I am moved to pass this.
So to add what you just said,
Yeah.
is there anything else that needs to happen on him?
We'll update
No, I
this.
think we'll just update
And when we
it.
come to study, that'll be on
We'll
study.
add it with
Okay.
insurance.
Yeah,
Then I'm fine with that, then.
Amsalu.
Yeah.
Okay,
Get the-
yeah, okay. Thanks,
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you. Public Safety Action Plan update.
Okay, so section 1 talks about staffing and training, so you can kind of see the numbers on there, around the different units. And then, Chief Rathbun can answer any questions you have on that. And then the next page goes into, the recent academies. We currently have, I think 2 academies actually at the academy right now. We have, 25 1B, 25 2B. There's 65, cadets going through. 1B will graduate here in about a month. 2B will graduate closer to the end of the year. And then we had a lateral class that's already graduated and completed. FSTEM. I was only 4.
Okay.
And so we are looking at potentially for another lateral class
We've
later
got,
this year. Yeah.
yeah, we've got, looks like 5 or 6, depending on acceptance. It'll start next month. And then we're also looking at the potential of another October academy. Also, kind of modeling after some of our folks in AFR, looking at a fast track academy focused primarily on in-state recruitment to leverage taking folks that are already post-certified here in Colorado, because there's a lot less training requirements you have to go through. You try to get them through, right? So make this a little more simple for folks that want to come over to Aurora. So we're looking at that for.
Are we talking to Denver?
We are.
I really want
We're
to.
getting a lot of
So I'll tell you the hardest part about Denver is
They
the
have
transition from retirement.
Yeah, I know, they have.
Oh,
that.
yeah.
They have that. Jason,
Are they?
Jason.
So it's the guys with the lesser experience from Denver that'll probably be more interested in coming over than the ones that have been there.
Well, and what we're really focusing on is leveraging things that have obviously come out in the media and the support that we have within the city differently.
Cover all
And
that.
talking about that, where we are seeing some impact already, and I just had some updates on recruiting, is the basic applicants, folks who are looking at multiple large cities are more encouraged to come to Aurora based upon things they're seeing about how Aurora is performing, as well as the benefits, especially including the pay and the access to other resources. So,
Loved to be Denver.
yeah, we're trying.
Not that I would love them more than you guys. That would never happen, ever.
Just to see the
APA,
competition, I understand it.
Just want to see them move over here. What's with this? What are we doing for this July 29th class? We have 2 people in it.
Oh, that was last year. So it was July 29th last year.
Oh,
That was a lateral class.
so good.
Again,
thing
and
I can
laterals
see
are
that
really
far.
interesting. Lateral, Chief, you can talk a little bit more about it. It's laterals to me, at least in my experience, are really kind of feast or famine. You know,
Oh,
so
I
kind of-
see. The L is a lateral.
Yeah.
I got it. Never mind. We can move on.
So Chair,
Yes.
are the lateral classes, are they always separate?
Yes, so laterals are separate. And the other big difference for us that we're trying to look at to encourage some of the in-state transfers is that the big difference on laterals is in-state. You can basically move over, we catch them up to speed with what Aurora is, and they just proceed. When they're out of state, they have to come in and essentially challenge the post-test. They have to go through a much more rigorous testing process, as well as a lot of mandatory training. Whereas when somebody transfers in-state, they've already met all the same requirements. So all these state mandates that we have, they just bring those certifications over, which allows a seamless transition. So one, that impacts how that lateral process is. And so we're trying to even further, look at how we can expand, still supporting the out-of-state laterals, what we're getting, but also provide a more direct path for our in-state.
Yeah.
guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing that because I've heard a lot of laterals from other, like, man, I don't want to go through a multi-week lateral academy. And so, cool. Yep. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Well, I want to take that for just FYI.
Yes, you've made that
All right.
right.
Next page goes over the training. Department obviously continues to have a very robust training. This lists all the different in-service and other trainings we've done in terms of numbers attended. Chief, I think I had.
Oh, would I be able to attend the rifle in service?
No.
Fine.
As an observer?
Yeah, we can put you on the 50-yard line.
You know,
We'll talk. We will, if you want to go out there, we will talk. Okay.
I have all kinds of marksmanship awards from the military. Thank you very
We will-
much.
Okay, we will talk.
We add a new grenade portion, I think.
I'm good at grenades too. Yes, thank you. I have that training as well.
All right, item 2 is our crime numbers. You'll see here again, year to date, crime numbers continue to be down. Very significantly, obviously, in the last 4 weeks, we've got a slight uptick in murders. You'll see that as the one kind of standout there. But again, the department continues to aggressively pursue crimes and reducing victimization. Chief, anything to add to that?
Yeah.
Just continue to point out, I mean, we're 5-year lows for fatal and non-fatal shootings. So, just had our crime stats meeting yesterday, going over it, staying on top of the trends and seeing also some of the impact. We're going to be looking at the correlation between those changes. You all saw the modifications to pursuit policies and the folks that were taken off the street that are bad individuals. And so I don't think that's a coincidence that we're taking those folks off the street and seeing that continued reduction.
Yeah.
Good question.
Oh, I
Sorry.
just wanna, I went out with the homeless outreach team, HART team, or whatever the acronym is for. This, in Washington, 2 abatements, and it was a world of difference. So I probably 2-3 years ago, I went out and watched an abatement. And out of the 2 abatements, there were 3 arrests for outstanding warrants. And I think there were 5 summons for violating our camping ban.
This latest one you're talking about?
This was yesterday.
Oh, yeah, I just read about that. Yeah.
Very impressive, very impressive.
Yeah.
And obviously we've expanded, we're taking from those 2 folks, putting 2 more officers on that work team and also ensuring that there's good cooperation with the districts and aligning as we move towards those hotspot policing approach. When we've got that overlap, that alignment with a hotspot that coincides with where we know encampments are, ensuring that cooperation is occurring, not just with our partners in the city, but within the districts to the HART team itself.
And are we giving them information that they can go camp in Denver?
We'll have to check on that one. I don't.
Yeah, we'll have to
We
check.
have a camping ban here, James, but we should be informing these people. We should be informing them that they can go camp in Denver.
Denver will be better at it than us. I mean, I worry about Denver systematically putting them in Aurora as they did.
Oh, let me find that
the
out.
migrators.
Let me find that
Well,
out. And who found that out? Who found that out, Mayor? About the hotel.
Question. With the fatal shootings, has everyone, the perpetrators been apprehended, or is that still ongoing?
Yes,
I read that they'd all been arrested.
our clearance rate, I mean, we have a couple under investigation right now, but our clearance rate is well above national average.
Good.
I want to say it was, I had somebody, so it's about 70-something% right now, and a couple of them are in investigation. So again, well above national average. And
And most of these on those shootings, the murders, don't want to speak across the board, but most of these are individuals that are known to each other, and they either have some kind of relationship or, there's a drug deal going bad, something like that. These are not,
Related.
not across the board, but these are not random acts.
Right.
correct.
Correct. Okay, I just understood. I asked that because I wanted to be made known and be very clear that the city of Aurora is actively and aggressively pursuing any perpetrators of wrongdoing in this city. And to let people know that I don't know what's going on in other municipalities, but in Aurora, we're not tolerating it and we're being very aggressive and very determined. If you're doing wrong, we will find you. So that's what I want us to continue to.
That's why I want to tell them to go to
tell
Denver.
people. You know, we're not having it here. You can do it there, but we're not having it here.
Go to Denver.
So, okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, just, if I can ask one question. So, I mean, these are great numbers, right? But I'm wondering, we add another column, like, for example, motor vehicles that have been topped out, what, in 22 or 23? I'd love to see where we are, because I know we're down 41.6 from last year, but what are we down from 2023? I think that would be an incredible, metric to see.
Yeah, we can get that. You won't
Yeah.
provide that.
Yeah, and again, I just thought that would be, right, just add another column, it's just like whatever our big year was.
Yeah, because to your point, we're down on last year, but last year was down on.
Down for
prior
the
year.
last 2 years it was down, so I think it's gonna be significant.
Yeah.
Okay, we get that for you.
We're no longer motor vehicle capital.
And I'm wondering where we are on other things, because again, I'm going back to our city code changes that you all sponsored about mandatory minimum sentences on motor vehicle, that's having an impact, so.
Well, that went to the state. I mean, that became a state law.
Yeah.
But so the governor vetoed that bill that would have stripped us of the authority to
Yes.
Correct.
have sentences greater than the state code.
Yeah.
But then there's a Supreme Court case, right?
There is, and we'll see what happens. I mean, the Supreme Court case is based on equal protection under the US Constitution, which again, I've held a position that, here in Aurora, when you look at the jurisdiction, right, where we are, we're not violating equal protection rights of individuals in the city of Aurora and our municipal court. We're just not, right? And when they say that, well, it's different in the state system, it's different in the city of Aurora, the best example is, well, you can have the same conduct in the state system, have a vastly different sentence in the federal system, right? There's an equal protection argument, it would apply there. So we'll wait to see, but I'm optimistic that the Supreme Court's not going to come back and say that we can't do that. And I'll be honest, Mayor, there were some cases in the 1960s on this same issue. And the Colorado Supreme Court said, no, I mean, this is home rule. The cities, if they have an issue, they can. So we're going to go like that. I will tell you that over the last couple of days, my office, I have received calls from some representatives of the legislature that are wanting to meet with me. I'm like, oh, yay, finally, they're going to start meeting with the stakeholders on these bills before. So that's good news. I know. So.
Go ahead, Jason.
No, it's good.
So I actually do have an update for the motor vehicle theft numbers. Now, not to just the 2023, but the 5-year year-to-date average was 2,120. Last year's year-to-date was 1,577.
And that's
1570.
through you can go back up, Nez, if you would.
Yeah, so
That's year to date. That's.
So
yeah.
a year-to-date number, so as you see, our motor vehicle theft year-to-date is 913 this year, was 1563 last year. 5-year rolling average, included the others, even including these lower numbers, was 2120. So if you want to talk about what that reduction is, when we're talking a 41% reduction this year, to your point, extrapolate that out. Yes, we are on a great trajectory.
Great. Well done.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Item 3 is our youth violence and gang reduction. Jessica, you want to give us the update on that?
I'm just really wanting to highlight, in May, we did a lot of custom notifications, and tonight is our second call-in of the year happening. 31 individuals have been invited that have either exhibited violent behavior or associated with it. The mayor will be kicking it off. We have some great community partners that we're working with that will be speaking to the youth in attendance. We had 5 court-ordered by Arapahoe County, 3 by Adams County, and the others we've done door to door with our community-based organizations and our staff, inviting them. We've had 2 that have committed to coming just voluntarily. So we hope to have that be a successful event tonight and see a decrease in violence related to gun violence like we did the last time when we hosted the last one at the beginning of February. So that is happening tonight. Just a few other community engagement updates, participating in resource fairs, things like that. We are continuing to get the agreements all set in place through our Department of Justice grant. We do have that funding. It hasn't gone away yet. It's still in the portal. It still shows that we have it. So we're diligently getting that put together and spending. A couple of success stories beyond here related to the SAVE program about a couple of different youth, and just also highlighting how we serve the whole family with the program through our case management services and community partners. Any questions on the state program refunds?
No, I am actually, going to try and make it to that event tonight with the road called Street. So I'm hoping to be there as well.
Go ahead.
A question. Do you have the update reference the 18th? My understanding was that that's now mandatory. Their participation now, do you want to touch on?
Yeah, so there was a meeting at the beginning of May with the 18th. Still some confusion and not quite completely there yet. Mandating for youth versus adults, two different processes there. They were able to mandate the 5, like I said, for tonight. So I think it's a work in progress, but the chief attended that meeting, was very clear about what our expectations are. And so some systems in place. I still think there's probably an opportunity for some state legislation to look at. We've already talked with Liz Rogers about that, put it on for legislative priorities for 2026. And she's exploring kind of what that looks like, who would carry that, where that makes sense. As it wouldn't apply to everybody across the state, but for those, and it may be something that also comes through the judges network as well. So that is on the radar. Yeah. So moving on to the crisis programs, we are more fully staffed than we have been with clinicians, 5 units of CRT. You can see the emergency room diversions, the jail diversions. That's really how we're measuring success of the program. And then obviously those 230 calls for service are things that patrol and others are not having to take on. And then scrolling down a little bit more is our AMRT. We have 2 units of that, continues to be successful. You know, be a positive thing for the community that people are requesting and can come through dispatch. I will just note too, we will be putting out an RFP for clinician services at the end of the summer. We've been with UC Health for a few years, been a great partnership. They also provide some match funding. You know, they're partnering with us in other ways as well. So that will be something coming out at the end of the summer, and council will see an agreement coming forth by the end of the year for those clinician services in 2026. And then,
Question on the
Yeah.
follow-ups, out of those people that follow up, how many of those go into services after you follow up with them?
so most of them, so that's our caseload then. So of those, you know, about 400 calls that we have, the case management is working with 56 individuals. And so that's follow up from the time that we have that intervention, you know, at their house, at a business, out in the community. Those folks are identified that need to not just have an acute moment right there on the scene, but they need follow-up services. So they're referred to the case manager. And then that's what we have, you know, in our caseload right now, follow-ups from those about 400. So not everyone needs that ongoing, but we want to make sure they're connected to either, you know, Aurora Mental Health or another group, whatever their need is related to that.
And not all of those calls for service are necessarily, there may be some repeat, you may have the same individual multiple.
Okay, thank you.
The last section is our homelessness section. You just heard a little bit, scroll down to the homelessness. Related to the heart team, but in terms of abatements, what we had for May, and then you can see the year over year 24 to 2025. So obviously we're doing a lot more. That is related to being fully staffed. It's related to also having a dedicated heart team in PD. So we're not managing around par officer schedules and things like that. So that's really helpful. And we have a really kind of systematic schedule now of which ward we do on which days. So those are happening. You can see them by ward as well. Those fluctuate from time to time. And then just the results of our outreach team, which are continue to be really successful in getting people connected to services. And I'll just note the outreach team is always going out the day before abatements. We still have to schedule the abatements because we have to work with Keeson and go systematically. The outreach team is always out working with folks beforehand. So the folks that are still existing in an encampment have had touch points and been offered services in shelter, usually the day before they're out there as well, as we're still, you know, posting notice that we're going to abate so people know to move along as well. So And then just a couple success stories around getting folks connected. And then I'll just note as well, everything is going well with the construction of the navigation campus. It's very much under construction right now. I saw some pictures last week. I shared them with the mayor and the your task force, I guess, on Monday. But like showers are completed in several of the areas. That's one of our critical path items to opening. And the other things are going well with construction. So we're still targeting about November timeline somewhere. We're going to get another update on July 14th from the construction folks to better determine a date for opening.
Great, thank you.
So that's, yes, so the, yeah, no.
No, perfect, thank you. Yes. Item 4C, Candace, I can.
Yes, this is updating our fees for interpreters, and it also changes it for defendants that fail to appear, that we can charge them for 2 hours of interpreter fees, but we're changing it from just jury trials to all hearings if they fail to appear. Our interpreter budget is we're over already this year for what we have budgeted. So the judge and I agreed on this change. So this is just a request to move this forward to study session so we can go forward.
Yeah, I absolutely approve.
I approve.
Okay, do you mind if I give my other updates while I'm talking?
What?
Okay, so we are going to using VidCruiter, and I know Tina uses it too. It's through Sarah Hansen, our recruiter. She set this up for us. So we're going to be able to do initial screening with videos. And it's going to be especially helpful in our detention center because our lieutenants do our recruiting and we have to get them together. You know, they're working overtime, night shift. So this will allow us to do screening and save that time. They can do it on their shift when they have time. So we're really kind of looking forward to that. And starting next month, I will put on in the agenda packet updates on our DVs, where we're at with case filings, warrants, that type of thing, so that we can start monitoring that unwinding of DVs.
July 1st, they're going to the
Yes,
times. Okay,
that's it.
okay. All right, miscellaneous matters for consideration. I just want to bring up that I attended with Trevor the Business Advisory Board Crime Forum for all of the hotels and some various business owners that are in our most northeast part of the city. So Chief, if we could, when we get the numbers, I know we just opened the substation on Vienna. But it really, I mean, our call times out there are truly terrible. And what some of these hotel owners are having to deal with, what the businesses are having to deal with. There are several of them that are willing to offer space to us. So maybe after the next graduating class, I don't know. But if we could do a substation, they're offering, parking for police vehicles. They're offering, their breakfast bar area so that our officers could have coffee, whatever they want. Out there, desk space. I mean, they're really offering the world just to have a couple of officers in this area. So that, I mean, it's several hotel owners, so we can take our pick where we want to put maybe just a couple of officers, but I would like to see that be made a priority. The call times out there are just way too excessive. So I wanted to offer that up. That I think was what was taken from the crime forum.
Yeah, and absolutely. And in conjunction with that, not just with the crimes up there, the motor vehicle thefts that occur, it's obviously is a big concern. Obviously, we have our own recent events up there as well that highlight the response times.
Yeah.
So with that, we've already begun to look at that, and I'll take it a step further. I mean, we're, as a part of all of our other strategic plans, that's
Yep.
obviously looking for an even longer term real solution.
Yeah,
because that
I mean,
area
they're
of the city
offering free space.
is growing.
Yeah. They're
That-
offering
Yeah,
free
and I'm
space.
just saying, we definitely want to continue even past that.
Oh, sure. We want, of course, we want to build.
But that is a priority for us, is to staff up that location. The other thing that we've made a couple tweaks on, just here recently, is ensuring 2 officer cars and stuff up there, and that they are dedicated resources up there. And we've also started breaking down those response times in different areas to consider any areas of the city in the way that we structure that. So,
Okay.
and also I
I
think,
just wanted to bring that up, that they are offering several
Yeah.
hotels are offering space officers.
What's your new strategy, the chief's new strategy in terms of, the heat map? So the, volume of climate crimes reported in specific areas, doesn't that allocate, patrol officers to those areas?
it does. So actually, like in the hotel area, as an example, we've actually seen a marked decrease in the crime up there over the last couple of months. So a lot of that was a part of one crew that was picked off. That in conjunction with DPD, we put some stuff together, pretty sophisticated group, several arrests, and we saw an immediate drastic reduction. And in fact, one of the other things that we noticed was a push of some of those things into Denver and up closer to the airport, away from the hotels due to our increased efforts. So, I mean, we're seeing it, and it's not just anecdotal. I mean, that was one of our hotspot policing areas. And in fact, we saw such a decrease that it kind of shifted our tactics, because we were spending so much resource up there when we made those arrests.
Well, then I really wish we could have had this information and someone from PD at this event specifically, because that information wasn't really conveyed.
Okay,
That this big push had been made, because this group still very much felt like they're just kind of the redheaded stepchild that has been forgotten out there.
okay.
So it's a shame that we didn't have that information, that this area was looked at. I mean, we did touch on hot shot, I can never say it.
The hotspot, yeah, hotspot policing, yeah.
We did touch on that, Trevor, I believe, but information like this was not shared to this
Yeah,
group of
so
people.
we'll make sure, yeah, Commander Pendleton would love to be involved up
He was
there.
there.
So he was there, and
He
he
was
didn't have
there.
the hotspot?
He talked about the hotspot and how hotspot policing works, but he did not
Oh,
say
not
that
be very-
specifically for this area, what has been done. That information was not given to this group of business owners, and that would have been really helpful. So that's why I'm just saying they are all jumping to offer space, to see if when we have a couple extra officers to have some sort of just mini substation out there. That information was not shared at this crime forum.
All right, and I'll make sure to follow up on that as well, because that was a part of our crime strategy meeting yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, I just happen to know, we were sitting, we went over that particular area in great detail with the
Okay.
concerns of both the business owners as well as.
I wish I would have done that, because I would have relayed that information as well to this
Yeah.
group of business owners, but
I'll make sure we.
yeah, we did talk about hotspot policing, but it wasn't, the information about their specific area was not given.
Okay.
So that's a shame, but that's okay. Other miscellaneous matters for consideration. I broke up a car show this past weekend, just so you're all aware. I'm very proud of myself for this. They left in an orderly fashion. Police said it was the most orderly fashion they had ever seen a car show ever been broken up. So I think I saved our city, some road damage, and I'm very proud of my efforts. I blended in with the crowd. They thought I was there for the car show. Some of them asked me to get into their cars. And I am a good
All right.
moral character there, and I did not. But I broke up the car show, and I'm very good.
And you didn't need a gun.
And I didn't have guns. You see what I'm saying? I can do stuff. So, does anybody else have anything?
Yes,
I
I do.
just, go ahead.
Yesterday, I attended the Heart Court over at Restoration Christian Fellowship with Judge Biggers and our esteemed Stiggers. I always say Biggers, Stiggers.
Can't get that one wrong.
I love
her
that. I
yesterday,
totally
too.
got it
I
wrong.
love Judge Stiggers.
He's just impressive. And the young lady that came yesterday, it was really, really heartwarming to see. I mean, you know, we fall down sometimes, but when we get up and we move forward, it's great to know that there's support that helps people to move forward, empowers them, and also holds them accountable so that they could be, again, as I always say, good stewards of their own life. And this example of the young lady that was there yesterday is a prime example of what happens when the proper supports and, you know, connections are made around someone that enables them to do better with their life. She's working with Ready to Work. She's working on getting, you know, her life together, getting a bank account and, you know, all her documents and all those things that seem to be roadblocks to keep people from moving forward when they have trouble. And I'm just really encouraged by the Heart Court. And I know that there are 6 individuals that you're looking at and, you know, continuing to see that program grow, especially as the navigation campus comes online. I think this is a great start and I'm continuing to support it and I'm going to come pretty regularly. So kudos to you guys. You're doing a great job. Great job.
Thank you for your kind, positive thoughts about the program. We're seeing some really amazing things happen for people. We're looking to expand the areas that we're concentrating on, with the help of Public Works, getting those signs posted and such. Hopefully it'll be soon. Great messages of the program. Appreciate it, because there's still some out there, the negative thoughts about the program, which we're dealing with. Hope that the positive messages will get out there more about the program. So, thank you for attending. Thank you for your kind, positive thoughts about the program. We may have tomorrow or more. We'll have to wait and see.
One thing I did notice about the way they have the court set up, it's more casual, but not. You know, it's not like you're going into the courthouse, which for some people can be really punitive and scary. But it also, they understand that the judge is the judge. He has his robe on, but it's a lot more relaxed. And I think some people just want to be heard. That young lady talked for quite a while yesterday. And I think, you know, because of all that she's been through and the relationship between her and the judge and everyone else and the navigators in the room, I thought it was a very healthy exchange. I think she clearly understood what her role is and what she needs to do. And I think that was just, I've never seen anything like that. And I thought it was just really great. So thanks.
Does anybody else have any miscellaneous matters for consideration? Trevor and the mayor are gonna go out dancing this weekend. Yeah.
Past 2 a.m.
At a cabaret.
Yeah.
And then they are going to define.
Yeah.
Real character.
We want to figure out what that threshold is.
Don't call me.
I don't know.
Our next
I'll be on the
meeting is
beach.
July 10th at 9 a.m. right here in this room. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah. Trevor, you go